Nvidia yesterday completely changed the AI market, and I did a quick video after Nvidia made some crazy announcements during Computex 2025. On today's episode, what I want to do is break it down a little bit more so we can all understand how this kind of concept is changing the AI space and why I am bullish for Nvidia in the long term of things. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
I mentioned Nvidia completely changed the game, and this is the main product, NVLink Fusion. So Nvidia unveils NVLink Fusion for industry to build semi-custom AI infrastructure with Nvidia partner ecosystem. So pretty much Nvidia's entering the ASIC market. Now, I am going to take a closer look at some of the puts and takes about this. Obviously, yesterday I came in with the super bullish sentiment. That is still there. But on today's episode, there are a lot more questions that we're going to look into. But first, let's kind of understand Nvidia as a company right now. So let me just make this a little bit smaller. So Nvidia, the main way it makes money right now is it sells individual components to build some form of AI infrastructure. It sells a B200, the B100. It sells DPUs, network switches. It also sells other components, but you can kind of sell individual GPU components. It also has kind of a software stack solution. But this is one of the first ways. Sell individual GPU components where the company can select however they want to build. They want to use an Nvidia GPU, they want to use an x86 CPU, they want to use a DPU from another player, they want to use a networking solution from another player. So you can kind of make your own way. Now, the most recent way that has gotten a lot of traction has been Nvidia selling a complete system. The perfect example is the GB200 NVL72, and this is Nvidia's super machine. Having everything powered by Nvidia creates the best machine due to all the amazing IP designed by this player, right? And the GB200 NVL72 uses Nvidia's CPUs, Nvidia's GPUs, Nvidia's DPUs, Nvidia's other forms of networking solutions. Now, the reason this has become a super machine is because this is 72 GPUs stuck together, and because of Nvidia's super strong NVLink, it kind of creates 72 GPUs as one massive GPU. And because of this kind of amazing feature, it is pretty great for things like inferencing in general, right? So that's why the Nvidia Blackwell was one of the best products to release at one of the best times. Right now, we are in this inference market. And the biggest moat, in my opinion, of inference is the ability to have this massive GPU. And the only one that can really do that right now is Nvidia with its NVLink and kind of connecting 72 GPUs together to deliver a massive GPU. And can I kind of talk about it here in this slide right here, where Nvidia's NVLink enables a new level of AI training, more specifically in inference and scaling. And the reason being is because the GB200 NVL72 and the NVLink switches kind of create this one giant Blackwell chip in general. Now that we understand how Nvidia has created their money, right, in kind of the complete systems and kind of like the individual systems, again, this is more of top level overview on the overall on the revenue making. There's a lot of other ways that Nvidia makes money with the software, but all of these are going to be dependent on this NVLink switch. So there is a market where Nvidia was not making money in, and that is cloud server providers are also building their own ASIC solution and AI infrastructure. For example, Amazon AWS is building the Trainium, the Inferentia. Google builds the TPU. Microsoft builds the Maya 100, and Meta uses the MTIA, the Meta Training Inference Accelerator. This is a market where these AI companies, these big cloud service providers, were not giving any money to Nvidia at all because they're using their own AI accelerator and then they're plugging in some other solutions outside of Nvidia. So this was a market Nvidia was not making any money in. And this is where the new market begins. And Nvidia announced the NVLink Fusion, which is delivering industry-leading AI scale-up and scale-out performance with Nvidia technology plus semi-custom ASICs or CPUs. Hyperscalers can build an ASIC hybrid AI infrastructure with Nvidia NVLink and AI factory technologies, including rack-scale architecture, Nvidia GPUs or Nvidia CPUs, co-packaged optics, switches, super NICs, DPUs, and mission control. So this is actually the easiest way to look at it. This is Nvidia's kind of full rack architecture. If to kind of build this rack architecture, to build an AI server, you need CPUs, you need GPUs, you need switches, you need NICs, you need other forms of networking solutions, and you need NVL in general. So this is Nvidia's kind of full approach. Now with this kind of Nvidia NVLink Fusion, what happens is maybe you don't want to use Nvidia's Grace CPU. You can kind of license Nvidia's Grace CPU and create your own systems using your own custom CPU. We are going to see that some players are doing that as well. Maybe you want to use all of Nvidia's solutions for this architecture built out, but you don't want to use their accelerators. You don't want to use the Blackwells. The Blackwells are too expensive. I'd rather use my own AI accelerators, but I still like everything else Nvidia provides. So I'll put in my custom accelerator. Now the question here for NVIDIA, and this is something we don't have an answer completely, is how customizable can we go? Can we go with just keeping the NVLink switch, the NVLink, maybe the Spectrum X, but can I switch my overall NICs? Can I switch my overall CPUs? And how much can I take off and how much can I add in myself? How customizable is it? Obviously, in this image, it just shows that it's only customizable by taking one of the Lego pieces. I believe there might be a little bit more customization, and these are some questions that maybe I should. I'll try emailing NVIDIA IR or investments relations to see if they can provide a color in here. But this is definitely pretty interesting. Now, who are the potential customers here? So the first are the biggest customers here are going to be the cloud service providers that are designing ASICs, as NVIDIA is trying to get a piece of that capital expenditure. Remember this slide where I mentioned that all these companies are building their own chip, but no longer in the AI server. It's just about building a chip. Now you have to build a chip but be able to kind of build out massive AI infrastructure. NVIDIA is kind of allowing the opportunity to let them help you with their partners. It's not like NVIDIA is working with you directly. We're going to see some of those partners, but this is no longer just a chip market. It's more of an AI infrastructure market, and that's where NVIDIA is trying to differentiate themselves of the AI ASIC market. It's no longer building one chip, is building a whole infrastructure. So these players, we can go and say, hey, look, Amazon is building their own AI chip, their Trainium, their Inferentia. A lot of these companies also have their CPUs, but maybe they want to use, and they don't want to pay too much money for NVIDIA's Blackwell, but they still want to use some of their ASIC solutions. You can kind of see where that would fit in. Now, let me take a step back and say, at this moment, and things can change, at this moment, I don't believe that this is going to be a market loser for NVIDIA. And by what I mean by that is, I don't believe customers are going to be buying less Blackwell because of this. I think now NVIDIA believes their market is still going to be very healthy on their own rack architecture or the main NVIDIA solutions, but they wanted to get a piece of that pie that they previously were not in. So that's where they want to increase the market wallet. They want to increase the spending, and they want to provide some solutions there. So those are the first customers. The second are other chip companies that only have CPUs and need a form of an AI angle. The first two companies that really kind of stepped to the plate here are Qualcomm and Fujitsu. Both are CPU players. I believe Qualcomm is kind of focusing on data center CPUs in the ARM-based, and Fujitsu, I think might be also in the ARM-based market as well. But these are companies that weren't developing any form of ASIC AI play or anything in that space, but now they have the opportunity to integrate their systems with some form of NVIDIA platform and kind of create a unique market for themselves a unique AI angle without designing their own GPU, without designing their own ASIC player. So this is definitely an interesting space, and I would love to see how Qualcomm grows in this market and if there really is an appetite. These are probably, I would say, your companies that are looking for a new AI angle because they couldn't do it themselves. So maybe kind of like the loser, not, I wouldn't say the losers, but the ones that are lagging in this space. Now, NVIDIA, I mentioned, NVIDIA is working with partners to do it. So in the top level approach, it seems like, let's say I am Microsoft and I want to integrate some of those technologies with my AI accelerator, or when I integrate my AI accelerator with NVIDIA. I'm not going to go to NVIDIA to work with that, right? I don't want to share my IP with them, but I work with the middleman. I work with AI chips, Astera Labs, Marvell, MediaTek, right? These are companies that provide ASIC solution, and I pay them a form of fee to help me integrate this into my own AI chip and go outside of that, right? So there's that middleman that makes sure there's things like privacy and to help with the design process that best meets your needs. So these are the few players. And I kind of talked about it here, who are NVIDIA partners. I mentioned AI chips, Marvell, MediaTek, Astera Labs. There is one player who was missing here, Broadcom. And this is crucial. This is, why is Broadcom missing? I might do a video later on explaining this Broadcom solution, but when ASIC solutions are created, again, on the top level approach of the business, there are some form of licensing fees, right? So Google, for example, makes some of their TPUs with Broadcom, and Broadcom gets some money because they help kind of design these TPUs. So there are some form of licensing fees. So Broadcom, in my opinion, doesn't want to share that revenue, especially if they can design their own kind of connectivity and other IP solution. Broadcom's going to be like, as a middleman, I'm somehow also providing some solutions for these other players. I'm not going to add another competitor here where I'm going to have to share my revenue, right? Because you're going to give Broadcom some money for helping you design the chip, but you're also going to be Broadcom is going to be giving some of that royalty fee most likely to NVIDIA, and they don't want to do that. They're going to be like, I believe my solutions are pretty strong, and I'm not going to partner with NVIDIA. I don't need to share my revenue. Now, maybe it could be seen that Broadcom is the big player, and these other players here might be lacking, so they'll rather kind of share that revenue with NVIDIA one way or another, where it doesn't matter if they take for them, even winning new market potentials using NVIDIA's chips is better. They rather get new markets and share fees than not have new markets and just not have any revenue at all. Where Broadcom, I think Broadcom is pretty cocky and saying, look, I don't need you. I don't want to partner up with you. I can do this without your IP. Now, the important question to ask is, will companies want to leave Broadcom's IP or other ASIC solutions to use NVIDIA technology? And that answer, remember, the main customers here are very limited. It's not going to be like your super small, any form of, even big enterprises won't be designing their own AI chip. There's only a few amount of companies that would ever design these type of solutions, and the cloud service providers are a few of them. Now, I want to say with this AI market, there's a lot of opportunity here as a little bit more companies. You might have the potential of companies like OpenAI kind of be using some of these solutions. You have also big players like XAI. So right now in this AI market, it does open up a little bit more solution for other customers outside of just your cloud service providers. But will companies want to leave Broadcom or these other ASIC solutions to use NVIDIA's technology? I do believe the answer depends on the following. First, are the cloud service providers wanting to escape NVIDIA's dependency, or are they just trying to reduce their cost? And the reason I say this is if you look to all these cloud service providers and kind of when they're talking about these chips, it's the market reads it as them trying to leave NVIDIA's dependency. These companies say it is more of wanting to obviously leave the dependency, but also it's a lot cheaper if they can design their own chips. Now, the reason this is an important question is if it's the first one, if cloud server providers want to escape NVIDIA's dependency, even if this is a cheaper route to go, then, and let me kind of just look at this really quick. This is most likely the most expensive route. I mean, Blackwell GPUs are pretty expensive. CPUs are okay. They're probably in this list most likely the second most expensive thing. But by far the biggest cost of solution is here. It's going to be in the Blackwell CPU. So this is obviously a full NVIDIA approach would be the most expensive. This would most likely, where you kind of use your own AI accelerator, would be the cheapest approach out of this scenario, and this would be the second cheapest. So now players need to go, am I trying to escape NVIDIA's dependency? If I am trying to escape NVIDIA's dependency, then no, they're not going to end up moving into this type of solution because they're just going to go back to NVIDIA's dependency. Now, if they don't really care about NVIDIA's dependency and they really just care about cost effectiveness, now you're going to have to compare the solutions. Hey, if I what is the cost of using NVIDIA's IP versus maybe using Broadcom's solution? Not only that, how fast can I get these chips going? And that's going to be the real question. So it's not guaranteed that these cloud server providers are going to go in there, but it does open up the optionality. Now, looking at these players, I believe the first players to be able to announce something like this are going to be the ones that are not leading in this AI ASIC space. For example, Google TPU. Google has done amazing at scaling out, at building AI chips, at building AI infrastructure. So for me, Google would be, in my opinion, the hardest customer to get. It's not an impossible customer to go. If I hear Google goes into this direction, I think everybody else would follow. Like Google is kind of that I was going to say something that maybe my wife was not going to approve. Google is that piece that is the hard one to get. If you don't get, if you're able to get Google, everybody else would follow. Now, who's the easiest? I think in forms of the easiest ones right now are either going to be Microsoft Maya 100 or Meta MTIA. The reason being is because both of those are not really in a high infrastructure exposure market right now. They're still kind of working the tweaks. We haven't really heard much from them, from these big players. And usually if you're quiet about them, if you're not talking about them, it's because they're not doing really, really good. Not the loudest, but the one we know the most, the one that's doing amazing is Google TPU. So if they do get that one, I think the rest would follow, or the rest have a really great opportunity to do it. AWS with their Trainium and Inferentia are also pretty strong, not at the levels of Google, but I would put them second in this list. So if you kind of get Amazon in as a customer, Microsoft and Meta, I think, would follow. But I think the easiest, lowest hanging fruits for this would either be Meta or Microsoft, and those would be kind of the first players that I think can benefit from here. Again, Microsoft with OpenAI might even have more incentives to be able to push into it. Now, the final point, and I think that's it to this, but the final point that I want to say is semi-custom solutions take time, right? It's at least a yearly it takes multiple years to design, right? It definitely does. So it's not something that NVIDIA is going to have a revenue booster on this year. I would be surprised if they do, but I don't believe we're going to see anything from this year. And if it does work, it takes some time to ramp up the process, right? You really don't start seeing the money until a company starts building massive AI infrastructure out of it. So this is something that might not pay off right now, but in, I want to say, a year, maybe 2 years time frame, if we do get some big customers, this could be a massive revenue booster, and it could be the thing that changed NVIDIA the way it is. So this is still got me pretty excited, but there were those questions that I think NVIDIA investors should consider, and to also have expectations that this is not going to change the revenue this quarter or next quarter, as the ASIC and the chip design process takes some time. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to check out the pinned comment for a lot of special offers. So peace out.